National Emergency Management Agency has alerted Nigerians to expect floods as Lagdo Dam in Cameroon release water from its dam. Now, the agency noted that the 9 states that may be affected by the recent release of water from the dam, which is expected to last till the end of this month. The Director General of the agency, Mustafa Ahmed, while giving an update on the release of the water from Lagdo Dam and the consequential flooding of communities along the banks of the river Benue, said that the states to be affected are Adamawa, Taraba, Benue, Nasarawa, Kogi, Anambra, Edo, Delta, and Bayelsa State. He said that the recent release has led to the displacement of communities and could lead to the destruction of crops and other infrastructure. To discuss further on the effect of the release of the water from the Cameroon Dam, we have joining us virtually Dr. Abdullahi Bamidele. He is the Director of Planning of the National Emergency Management Agency. Thank you so much for joining us on Daybreak this morning. Hello, Doctor.
Okay, while we're waiting for the doctor, I think Ibrahim Ismail has something on how this is affecting some places in the country. But let's see how this goes. All right, Salis Lawan, rather. Our correspondent Salis Lawan is the one who is coming in with this report on how this story or this water from the Lagdo Dam is affecting farmers in Adamawa State. And a lot of people have said that the worst hit or the first hit state could be Adamawa, and that is playing out right now. That
could be, you know, looking at the geographic positioning, you know, of the state from the Cameroon and the Lagdo Dam and everything. You could see that the state is likely to be the first to be hit by the flood, and this warning has, you know, came. I mean, we've been having this warning for a number of, for quite a period of time now.
Sure, and
the NEMA has been warning over time, and we're not sure whether the people in the communities, you know, are listening and adhering to the advice given by NEMA. So that's why sometimes you see these things, they do happen, and it's quite complicated when you hear people make the arguments that it's because, you know, they have nowhere else to go, and that's why they have to be where they are. And you know, this is the land where they inherited
from their forefathers. You know,
from their forefathers, they can't leave and so on. You hear things like that.
Let's take a look at the report. We'll be back.
The flood was as a result of water released from Lagdo Dam in Cameroon Republic. These farmers, who until the flood expected bumper yields, are now struggling to harvest what remains. The flood, which according to the farmers came earlier than expected, worsened the situation.
Mun yi noma dai ambaliya ya zo ya ci, to saboda haka muna nan muna kokari muna fitar da amfanin gonannakin mu a cikin ruwa.
The flood has wreaked havoc to us. As local farmer in this farm, I planted 2 bags of rice seed and was expecting to harvest more than 50 bags of paddy rice, but more than 95% was destroyed by flood.
Tammu wayansu suna cikin ruwa, wayansu suna tudu.
Some of the farmers explained the money they used for planting was borrowed from banks, while others went as far as selling their household properties with hope of replacing them after harvesting.
Wallahi ruwan nan ya shanye mana gona, yanzu haka muna kokari bata gama nuna ba ma muke cirewa. Gashi dai kowa yana gani yanda muke fama.
My losses personally this year as the result of the flood is much. We are forced to harvest our crops and reap. I took a loan of 400,000 naira from one of the rice processing companies to plant rice and hope to pay with paddy rice at the harvest. And now, aside from the damage, my major concern was how to repay my loan back.
To ga abun da ya kasance yanzu dai ba mu san yanda zai kasance ba ga da yanda rayuwa ya dawo.
Shinkafa bata nuna ba. Ruwa dai gashi da Allah kawo ruwa. Mai shinkafan wata ta kosa.
The rice is not yet matured for the harvest because 85% is on rape. However, in order to minimize our losses, we were left with no option than to cut what we can see from the flood. We are appealing to the federal and Adamawa state government to assist farmers affected by flood.
Kapaka yawanci duk an yi asara ta rube. Gaba ɗayanta ta rube.
They are pleading with the government and other individuals to come to their aid by making provisions for food and other necessary items to guarantee their safety. Salis Lawan, Trust TV News, Yola.
Thank you very much, Salis Lawan, for that report. And it's so devastating how these farmers had to go through so much during this season. And joining us to explain further and tell us how we can mitigate the effect of flood in Nigeria as what has been released from the Lagdo Dam, we're being joined by Dr. Abdullahi Bamidele. He is the Director of Planning, National Emergency Management Agency. He'll be joining us via telephone this morning. Good morning to you, Doctor, and welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
All right, Doctor, the effect of the flooding, there have been a lot of predictions, warnings from NIMET, from NEMA concerning this flooding. What can we make of this now that some people have been affected by the effect of the release of water from Lagdo Dam?
Thank you very much. At the beginning of the year, predictions were given by NIMET and NISA. The implications were widely disseminated to the general public. Unfortunately, what we are seeing now is not as a result of in-country rainfall, but the spillage of water from Lagdo Dam. If you recall, the authority of Lagdo Dam started spilling water sometimes in August. It was stopped. But because the weather in Cameroon is not the same thing with us, more rain has come in and they need to spill water to a dam breakage. Some of our communities in Nigeria, especially Adamawa State, have been affected. The zonal office of NEMA, the Adamawa State Emergency Management, have opened camp to move people who are affected to the place. As I speak to you, the agency is moving in with relevant food and non-food items, including medicaments, to assist the people who have been affected. It's an unfortunate incident, but we don't have control over what the Cameroon authority is doing. So we'll try and mitigate the effects and ensure that our people are not too much impacted.
Okay, Doctor, you talked about the warning and even the NEMA office in Adamawa has been affected. But one of the problems we face during this contingency measures or trying to mitigate or allow people to leave a particular area because of this warnings is the fact that people say that this is our ancestral home. We don't have anywhere to go to. What are some of this problem that was faced during a desensitization period? Were there people saying that they wouldn't leave, and is that why some of these people have been affected?
This relief is sudden. During the sensitization, people were informed to move. That's why I said it's not as a result of in-country rain. If it were to be in form of in-country rainfall, this build-up will have been gradual, but this is a sudden relief, which the people were not expecting. But I can tell you that from what the report we have received, people have moved, camps have been opened using schools and religious houses, and we are hoping the impact will not be much. For the people who are downstream, especially Taraba, Benue, down to Kogi, through Anambra to Bayelsa, will be equally informed to please activate their strategic plan of dealing with this flooding, so that when the water eventually comes to them, we will not have the effect we are having in Adamawa presently.
Okay, Doctor, you know, it's quite confusing, really, when you listen to sometimes officials of government talk about this flood. And we've had countless times how this flood, how the Lagdo Dam in Cameroon has been attributed to be the cause of the floods that we are witnessing here in several states in the country. But I'll go back to August 2022 rather, when we had a briefing by the Nigeria Hydrological Services agencies, where it said that the flood that we're witnessing in Nigeria is not because of the Lagdo Dam. In fact, the Director General of the agency, Clement Nze, specifically said that even if the Lagdo Dam were to collapse, the impact of the water will not go beyond Numan in Adamawa State. So what exactly are we dealing with? Because I've heard this side of the argument as well, and I see that there's a tendency for people to feel relaxed, given this, double information.
Thank you very much. We must be reminded too that what we are facing now, like I said, and I still repeat, is a sudden release. In 2022, we had in-country rainfall that was far above normal. You know, River Benue that takes the water from Lagdo has tributary from rivers like River Gongola and others down to Benue. But what we are witnessing now is the sudden release. And climate change is playing a specific role in this matter. So our appeal is for people along the banks of River Benue, and eventually when it gets to Kogi State, where it will join River Niger at the confluence, to please vacate their abode and move to higher ground. So what Engineer Clement said in 2022, yes, it's valid, but as we are now, what we are witnessing in 2023 is a different ballgame. So we must be ready to cope with the situation as it comes. So that's where we are.
Okay, but how do we say it's different? Because, like I said, he said that even if the Lagdo Dam was to collapse, and I've heard not only him, but even other analysts also make the argument that even if the dam, Lagdo Dam now in this case, were to collapse, the water that will come from that dam will not go beyond Numan in Adamawa State. Can you explain how
it depends on the volume of water that is being released. Sometimes the release is graduated and is controlled. So it depends on the volume they are pushing out. I cannot specifically tell you how much of the water was released in the past 1 week, but when it happened in August, it was graduated from about 8 million cubic meter of water to about 5. So there was no serious impact. But if the volume is beyond what the channel of the water can take in Nigeria, definitely we're going to have the effect, and exactly that is what is happening now.
I know a memorandum of understanding was signed between NEMA and the officials or the government of Cameroon concerning the release of water from this Lagdo Dam. So now this is happening at this time because you talked about how the weather in Cameroon is different from ours and how climate change is playing a part in all of this. But to Nigerians now, how long are we supposed to expect this release of water so people can be prepared? Is it till the end of October, or is this something we should expect maybe after this month?
Well, like you said, there's a memorandum of understanding, but honestly, I don't know the content of that MOU. But as it is, it's supposed to be a gradual relief with information passed across Nigeria. That is not within the jurisdiction of NEMA. It's between the Nigeria Hydrological Services Agency and the authority controlling the Lagdo Dam. So I might need to explore nicer to get more information as to whether this MOU is being adhered to strictly or not.
Okay. Now, we often say that the people in these communities have been warned and have been advised to move to higher grounds. And each time we have this flood experience, the same thing happens again. And we see a repeat of the same thing over and over, despite the warning. So, and I'm wondering, isn't it time for us to think about a different approach to this? And is it enough really to say we've asked the people to move to higher grounds? And if they don't move, then what? Adding to there are other things that we need to be doing. For instance, other experts have suggested the building of buffer dams, the dredging of the rivers, and so on.
I agree with you totally. Part of this structural measures to control the building of buffer dam, I'm aware the Kashimbila Dam is supposed to take some of this water. The Minister of Water Resources will be in a better position to tell us the position of the construction of that dam. However, it is important to state that state government should start exploring opportunity of resettlement where possible. Though it could be expensive, but this can be gradual, and if that is done, it will help us to minimize the impact of flooding when water is reduced from control.
Okay, so we talk about state governments. How much can the states really do with regards to some of these constructions? And if you look at the River Benue and the River Niger, for instance, in terms of dredging, whose responsibility is it? Is it the state or the federal government?
I cannot aptly tell you who is responsible, but I know that at the subnational level, if the dredging is not done, resettlement should be considered, and if it's strictly adhered to, the impact of flooding will be minimized. Dredging is capital intensive, it's huge, but I'm sure with responsible government, and we have a responsible government too, that will take into consideration some of these things that we're talking about.
Okay, so what's your advice to some Nigerians now who are still expecting this flood as a result of the release of water from Lagdo Dam? What should they be doing now, especially farmers?
Like I said, on Saturday, Director General of NEMA, Mr. Habib Ahmed, gave a press conference where he highlighted the current situation in Adamawa, and he advised that the state government downstream should now activate their strategic plan to get these people out, while NEMA on his part is putting his house in order to make provision for will be impacted communities. This will span, like I said in the opening, from Taraba down to Bayelsa, where the water eventually gets into the Atlantic Ocean. So it's important for state government to heed this warning, to activate their plan, to ensure that people are moved out of the areas that are likely to be affected by this flood.
I thought the NEMA is working with the state government. Are there other stakeholders you're partnering with to mitigate the effect of this flood?
Very many stakeholders. We have police departments and agencies and even non-governmental organizations that are working with us, and everybody has been activated to key into the strategic flood response plan, which is on ground. We've been meeting, and we will still be meeting situation and ensure that the impact is minimized on Nigerians.
How prepared is NEMA in terms of the likelihood of outbreaks that could occur as a result of this flood that we're experiencing in these states?
I just mentioned to you that we are working with MDA, so Minister of Health is part of the plan, and it behoves on State Ministry of Health, Agricultural Resources to see to it. So NEMA as a coordinating agency is prepared, and we are working assiduously to ensure that wherever it occurs and whenever it occurs, we will do exactly what we plan to ensure the safety of Nigerians.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Abdullahi Bamidele, Director of Planning of the National Emergency Management Agency. Thank you for joining us on Daybreak and giving us this insight.
Thank you for having me.